Well, it's now official. Gary Patterson is on the staff at the University of Texas. I want to talk about it. What is up, college sports fans, fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? This is Coos coming to you again from the hills of wild and wonderful, almost heaven, West Virginia. This is Coos' Corner. If you like college sports videos several times a week, hit the red subscribe button if you haven't yet. Give me the thumbs up if you like this video. Share it with all your college sports loving friends. Check me and my colleagues out at the Coast to Coast CFB Network on Facebook and Twitter. Links in the description box. Now let's get on with the show. Yes, it's official. Gary Patterson is now on the staff at Texas. That news is a few days old as I record this video, but I wanted to talk about it. I hadn't had a chance to put a video out on it yet, and I wanted to. But I was thinking about this. You've got Steve Sarkisian, first-year coach, who had a 5-7 season, one of the worst seasons in Texas football history, at least in recent memory. You know he's going to be on the hot seat because Texas is very impatient with their coaches, or at least they have been historically. The fan base gets antsy when they're not winning, and even the leadership and the boosters get antsy when they're not winning. They have high expectations at Texas. You got Gary Patterson, a legendary head coach who has basically owned Texas since he's been in the Big 12 with TCU. I think his record's like 7-3 or 6-3 or something. He's pretty much owned them. Tell me in the comment box what his record actually is. I can't remember off the top of my head, and I don't have it in my notes, but I know he's got a really good record against Texas since he's been in the Big 12 as a coach at TCU. TCU got rid of Gary Patterson during the season, and now he's landed as a special assistant to the head coach at Texas. There was a job created just for him. Now, this is not an on-field position. It's basically an analyst job. Basically, he's going to be behind the scenes. Some of the job priorities it listed were helping with practice and game day prep, self-scouting, doing special projects assigned to him by the coach, Steve Sarkisian, doing stat analysis, video analysis of the opposing team, things like that. Interesting thing about this move is Gary Patterson once worked for Texas's current AD, Chris Conte, when he was at TCU. So they apparently have a really good relationship. My concern, if I were a Texas fan, and Texas fans, if you're watching this, comment and let me know what you think about this move to hire Gary Patterson. If I were a Texas fan, I would be concerned that whether or not Steve Sarkisian was fully bought in with this move. Did he want to do this, or was this Chris Del Conte's idea? Because if this was Chris Del Conte's idea, then Steve Sarkisian may be looking over his shoulder the entire season. Because you've got a legendary coach in Gary Patterson who has an actually better track record than you as a head coach, just because he has a lot more experience. I mean, this guy could be, they could be bringing this guy in just for him to take your job next year. That's what I would be thinking if I were Steve Sarkisian. And I didn't buy into this. Now, if this was Steve Sarkisian's idea, I don't know anything about the relationship between Steve Sarkisian and Gary Patterson. There again, Texas fans or even TCU fans who may know the answer to that question, let me know in the comments. I'd like to know. But if those two were close and Steve Sarkisian said, hey, man, let's bring Gary in to help out, then that's a different story. But if those two barely know each other and don't have that good of a relationship, and Chris Del Conte come to Steve Sarkisian and said, hey, let's bring Gary Patterson in as a special assistant to learn from him and use his experience and his knowledge. I mean, even if Steve Sarkisian wasn't okay with it, what's he supposed to say to his boss? No, I don't want to do that because I'm afraid he'll take my job. You can't say that to your boss. The natural answer is going to be, yeah, let's do it. Because you know why? Because Steve Sarkisian's job is to win football games. And if this is an opportunity to win football games, then, he pretty much had to do it, right? Because his boss wanted to. Now, there's another side, maybe he was all on board with it. Maybe Steve Sarkisian doesn't have an ego. Maybe he's cool with it. That'd be interesting to know. If any of you Texas fans or anybody connected to the Texas program knows about this situation and has any insider knowledge or even has your finger on the pulse of what's going on at Texas, I'd like to know, because this just seems like an odd situation to me. That you bring in a guy who's arguably a better coach than you are to be your assistant, special assistant. I just think that's a little strange, and it has the potential to backfire on Texas. And it wouldn't surprise me if it does, because what if Steve Sarkisian and Gary Patterson don't see eye to eye, and Sarkisian doesn't like what's going on and how things are going behind the scenes, it could cause a rift there, and that's going to filter into that's going to probably filter into the players' performance on the field, because it's going to affect how these guys coach. It can't. How could it not? I mean, they're human, for crying out loud. It's going to impact them if there's a rift at all. Now, it could end up being a great move. This is one of those moves that I see as being it's either a huge hit or a huge miss here. Bringing Gary Patterson in could be a home run hire for Chris Del Conte. I mean, he may end up helping Texas turn things around in one season. Or it could be a terrible miss, cause a huge rift in the coaching staff, and cause coaches to leave and quit and everything else. And another interesting thing I thought about, did Chris Del Conte bring Gary Patterson in to be the head coach in waiting for Steve Sarkisian, just in case Sarkisian doesn't get the job done next year? Is that his succession plan? His plan B, so to speak? And if that's the case, then I don't agree with what he did. He shouldn't do that. Now, I don't know. Maybe he didn't. Like I said, everybody could be on the same page with this move and be on board with it, because everybody just wants to win football games. I don't know. But it's got the potential to be a huge mess, a bigger mess than it already is in Texas. We all know Texas has been a mess for a while. It's got the potential to get even worse with this move. Or it could be a home run. I'll be anxious to get your all's opinions on this. Do you think this was a home run move for Texas to hire Gary Patterson as a special assistant to Steve Sarkisian? Or do you think it was a huge mistake because Sarkisian is going to be looking over his shoulder at Patterson all the time? I'd especially like to hear from Texas fans. What do you think on this? Let me know in the comment section. If you appreciated this content, please give me the thumbs up. If you haven't yet and you want easier access to more of my videos, hit that red subscribe button, please. There's a lot of ways you can help me with my channel as well financially. You can become a member of Kuz's Corner for as little as $2.99 a month. Hit the join button underneath the video. It'll show you what all the perks are available. You can join my Patreon page and get perks as well that way. And matter of fact, you can have access to even more perks through Patreon. Or you can support me through Venmo, through PayPal, through Cash App. All those links are in the description box. And all of that would be much appreciated and would really help my channel grow. I want to invest in a new computer to do easier editing and do higher quality videos, and all that will help me to achieve that. Well, listen, I appreciate you tuning in. Q Country Roads.